I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
Barack Obama said this week that he's tried drugs.
Which of you are ready to admit to having used marijuana in the past?
They can't pass 377 because it's illegal.
Stop arresting patients!
The Attorney General says he believes there are too many loopholes in Michigan's Medical Marijuana Act.
My doors are going to be open. If you shut my doors, I will find a way to open them again.
13 states allow some use of doctor-prescribed marijuana.
This law is the will of the people. Let it be.
This is the aftermath of a search. They just destroyed the whole place.
This is a war on people. This is a war on Americans.
Listen to the people! Listen to the people!
We're marijuana consumers. We want to pay our fair share.
This half hour, we're talking about the big business of marijuana.
The DEA spent $10 billion last year.
Peace, love, and marijuana.
For the purpose of this documentary, we have brought together the leaders of the Michigan medical marijuana movement. Many feel that there are some very uncompassionate lawmakers in Lansing that will do whatever it takes to complicate things for state-licensed patients and caregivers. For a better understanding of where we're at, let's take a look at the history of the Michigan medical marijuana movement.
Well, the prohibition of cannabis in the United States was brought about by fraud on the Congress. If the United States Congress had realized that cannabis or marijuana was hemp, they never would have made it illegal.
2007, referendum ballot initiatives in Detroit, Ann Arbor, Flint, and Ferndale made code amendments to their city charter that allow for medical marijuana.
I began the process of getting a ballot initiative in the city of Detroit to legalize the medical use of marijuana under Detroit city law. And I finally succeeded in doing that. In 2004, we won with 60% of the vote. And that created a movement in Michigan where it emboldened a lot of patients and a lot of people that want marijuana to be treated a little different than it is. And so we got ballot initiatives in Flint, Traverse City, Ferndale, and Ann Arbor. And they all passed. All local laws were changed. We did have some opposition. Bill Schuette, the current Attorney General, as a matter of fact, led the opposition when he was a judge. Yeah, they fought back. The Michigan Hospital Association was one of their biggest donors, and the DeVos family from Amway.
The Michigan Medical Marijuana Act was drafted by the Marijuana Policy Project, which is funded by Progressive Insurance, owned by Peter Lewis. And they put $1 million or so into the petition drive.
2008, voters approved the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act that allows doctors to refer patients to the program and allows patients to possess up to 12 plants and up to 2.5 ounces.
Well, the department at first came out with really crazy rules, or proposed rules anyway. One of them, you had to have the marijuana in a locked safe. You had to turn in all overages to the state police for destruction. You had regular inspections, of all facilities by the Department of Community Health and by police and everything like that. And I say the community really fought that one hard. And at that point, the Department of Community Health, the powers that be met, and they decided, hey, we're just going to go with the spirit of the law. We're not going to have any of these unusual regulations. We're simply going to be an administrative agency that produces ID cards and follows the law, in a very narrow way. But they did have a lot of really strange rules that were proposed initially, but we convinced them to do the right thing.
2009, Michiganders begin to acquire their medical marijuana licenses by the thousands, causing a massive backup at the Michigan Department of Community Health. The first compassion clubs and dispensaries are open.
People saw an opportunity to be able to do something outside of work in a plant, and there are even, if you can even call it that, there aren't even any jobs in plants anymore. There isn't anything practically in this state. And this has been a godsend, to this economy. And that's how I see the whole thing coming about. And I think Schuette and those people are trying to make their move early to kill it off before it expands even further, before it gets more deeply entrenched within the culture. And it would be almost impossible to eliminate. So he wants to put it on a fast track, to get rid of it.
2010, Republicans reacquire majority control of the Michigan government. Bill Schuette, an opponent of medical marijuana, is elected as the Attorney General. Medical marijuana dispensaries begin to explode throughout Michigan. Most open and operate without problems. In Oakland County, the District Attorney, Jessica Cooper, pulls the trigger on raids at 2 dispensaries that are supposed to act as test cases.
Michael Bouchard and Jessica Cooper, prosecutor of Oakland County, believes that the law really doesn't say what it says. And they say that anything that unless you're getting your medicine from a caregiver, anything else is illegal. Now that is their theory, and ultimately that's going to be proven out in court. I mean, there are court challenges heading all the way. They will be going to the Supreme Court. But Mike Bouchard is making a preemptive strike, let's put it that way, to get a decision as soon as possible, which he hopes will be favorable.
Lawmakers are still in a paradigm shift. They would still like things to be the way that they were in 2007. There's a financial motive, and then there's a moral motive. On a moral level, the lawmakers are trying to retain a sense of illegality for marijuana that they've been trained to have for the last 30 years. 2011.
By February, the number of registered patients passes the 100,000 mark. Several bills are introduced that challenge the Medical Marijuana Act regarding such things as patient-doctor relationship and patient-to-patient transfers. These bills greatly restrict access to the Michigan Medical Marijuana Program.
Starting in 1775, Thomas Jefferson was the first person to put an initiative, and he did it in Virginia. And so, if Thomas Jefferson says that the people should have the right to enact law, then government should have to honor that law. And so we take that very, very seriously, that the government should, at first they should implement this law, and then they should honor it, and then if they want to tweak the law later on, come back and talk to us.
There are now over 100,000 patients and caregivers participating in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Program.
There is a need, for medical marijuana. There's a lot of people. It's not just cancer or Lou Gehrig's disease and so on, but people with chronic pain conditions. Sometimes they do need medical marijuana. Now, again, I'm not bashing Merck or Pfizer or anything like that. Those are good companies, and those drugs work for some people. For other people, they don't work for them. And medical marijuana has been a godsend.
Living with multiple sclerosis is very terrible. I would say about 3 weeks ago, I just finished up a 9-week stint in the hospital, and back in June when I woke up, I couldn't see, I couldn't use my legs.
I have a form of muscular dystrophy, I have fibromyalgia, and I also have, which they do believe, arthritis in my back.
Last year I was hit by a car, and it broke my back in 4 places, and I have a steel plate and everything now.
The name for it is multiple sclerosis, and it's gotten to the point where I can't do too much with my body, and there's a lot of spasming going on. So I have 6 different medicines that I need to take during the day. So I've got my little medicine pills all set up, and they all do different things, but they all give about the same problems.
Now, what kind of things have I seen in patients before in applying cannabis to their medical situations? I deal with patients with MS, Crohn's, UC, colitis, IBS, MS, cancer, various forms of cancer, skin conditions, terrible eczemas that haven't gone away for years, HIV patients, just almost everything that is a major scourge to the medical profession these days is something that, for one reason or another, it seems that cannabis is able to actually address these situations, these medical situations that the doctors are having such a hard time with.
Well, when my accident first happened, I was on morphine and then Vicodin after that, and had an allergic reaction. Made me throw up and itching everywhere. My whole face felt like it was just crawling the whole time, and with medical marijuana, I don't have any of those problems.
Definitely the side effects were not good. The narcotics make me really drowsy, where I can't play and interact with my kids. Also, I just can't function right in pain, to where I'd break down and just cry all the time.
But if you do marijuana, it doesn't give you that problem. It doesn't upset your stomach. It doesn't make you constipated. It relaxes you, and you feel a lot better.
Currently at this time, through cannabis and Simpson oil, I am not taking any medications.
My wife was losing massive amounts of weight, and the doctors had no answers for her. So we entered the Michigan Medical Marijuana Program, and she is much better now. My pain is under control. I've dropped the anti-seizure medicines, which I was on massive dosages. I've all but eradicated any pain medications, and I'm a lot healthier today than I was.
We need the medical community to speak out in support of this. I have a client who was able to reduce his OxyContin intake from 8 per day to 6 per day, which is huge, both in the how it affects his body physically and in the savings in the expense of those drugs.
Since I've been using medical marijuana, it has changed entirely my attitude, my life, and my personal well-being, because now I'm not addicted to these other drugs anymore. I get the same relief without the side effects.
The numbers are about 4% of the population does suffer from some kind of chronic pain condition, and we've got close to 100,000 people, in the state of Michigan that now use medical marijuana that are authorized to do so. And some people like Bill Schuette make a big deal out of that. Well, that's less than 1% of the population, because we got 10 million population in Michigan, so about 1%. And apparently this is, it's a godsend for people.
That it is a very sacred plant, because I believe in Christianity, and therefore I believe in a God. And I believe in God who created this plant for man's use. And he even earmarked it by saying, and this is an exceptionally good plant for you.
This whole thing is not about medical marijuana, people just getting high. It's relief. I figure this, people have the right to go out. They have a right to drink as much as they want, and it causes cirrhosis of the liver. We all know what alcoholism causes. We all know people have the right to go out and smoke a cigarette. We all know it causes cancer. Should I not have the own right to choose what I want to put into my body? I mean, I should have the right to either want to take this OxyContin over here, which is going to clog me up, cause me side effects that I'm not sure of, and some mental things to go along with it, to whereas I can smoke a joint or I can eat a piece of candy and have as much as relief and no side effects. And again, it's my choice. I don't understand what the problem is.
With mounting opposition to the Michigan Medical Marijuana Program, many have concerns about the challenges facing patients and caregivers.
Well, the biggest challenge is coming up this fall, and if we don't stop them this fall, there's a very good chance we'll lose everything, that they will water that law down to where it's practically meaningless.
We as voters, 74% of us voted for this law to pass. We have this right. The law was given to us. I don't understand how an individual as Bill Schuette can come in and change a law, again, voted by the people.
So we voted for him, but for him to go against the will of the people is the opposite from what he was elected to do and what we had petitioned him to do. I mean, he literally stabbing us in the back.
Let's say a patient's caregiver, their crop fails, or the patient's crop fails. Where would that patient go if he's not able to go out and acquire it from another patient? Are we going to condemn sick people to getting off their sick bed and going into the street and looking for their medication? Because once you make the decision to become a medical marijuana patient, your life changes. Because in many cases, we quit consuming pain pills. We don't take OxyContin, we don't take hydrocodone. We use medical marijuana. So if our supply is interrupted, is our only alternative to go back on these harmful, addictive drugs? I don't think so, and I don't think that's what the voters intended. That's why the voters said that we have the ability to acquire and transfer.
If my local dispensary closed, I don't know what I would do, because I would be in so much pain that I would want to commit suicide probably.
I've gone and bought my medical marijuana on the streets. It's more expensive. It doesn't have the same medicinal strength.
Well, there is a distinct effort. I mean, there is an opposition, and there are people who are trying to peel away at the rights that this act, affords us, and the protections that this act affords us. And these people just want to participate in this program, grow medicine, use medicine, whatever the circumstances may be within the the guidelines set forth by the law. And there are people that are trying to circumvent that and take away their liberty and their things as a result. And it shouldn't be like that. And it should be a little bit more defined, and they should feel a lot safer about this law that is so overwhelmingly supported by the voters.
Well, they say that the voters were tricked. They didn't know what they were voting for. Okay? They didn't believe or think that all of a sudden these like so-called dispensaries and compassion clubs and groups like this would be signing up. The Department of Community Health claims that they thought maybe there would be 5,000 people and that was it. And their theory is that unless you're terminally ill, okay, and you need to just sort of get high, before you die in order to feel better, that's the value of marijuana. So, you're obviously, if you're a cancer patient, you're dying, you're not a danger to society, so go ahead, buddy, go get high.
I am a smoker, and it upsets me when people will call me a faker because it really does help, and it's not just to get high, it's actual medication.
What he's doing, he's got his own class of people that he's trying to help. He's not looking at the person such as myself or a person who doesn't have the mega bucks. See, this is something good for all qualities of life. Rich, poor, doesn't matter.
The biggest problem that Michigan medical marijuana patients are facing is that the law has not been properly implemented. Different areas across the state, especially, you can see the discrepancy in the implementation, because in some areas patients have access. Ann Arbor is a good example of that. In the western part of the state, it's a very hostile environment. Patients are scared. And I think that the government itself, at the state level, the introduction of all these bills, at the core of these bills, it paints a very negative picture of our law. Our law is a compassionate act. It was enacted by voters to help sick people. But if you read these acts that they're proposing right now, it paints a much different picture of the people that are benefiting from this medicine.
All of the honest, law-abiding citizens who are doing it peacefully and appropriately in their homes don't come into contact with law enforcement. So law enforcement thinks that because everybody who they see perhaps might be a criminal, or many of them, they assume that everyone involved in it is criminal, and that's not a fair assessment. So there's a big change in perception that needs to occur.
I think every law goes through a period of time where things get adjusted to make it more functional and to work within its intent and things like that. And it's not perfect by any means, but it is significantly clear in a lot of areas that a lot of people would like to have others believe are not so clear, and that's part of the effort of the opposition to hurt this law and stop us from functionally using it. These people are coming up with interpretations that make it impossible for the law to be carried out. And if that's the case, then that's got to be a bad interpretation.
They came in, there were former terminal cancer patients that were now cancer-free. People that have been told they have maybe 2 weeks left to live, maybe 2 days. They walked in to testify on his behalf with their medical records and their doctors, cancer-free. We have the cure for cancer sitting here if we can coax it out of this plant. Because of the numbers of people who are afflicted by cancer, we need to go after this now.
Many have searched for the solution to the challenges facing patients and caregivers, but there are things you can do too.
You just don't want to, historically, ever wanted to deal with this. It's been extremely difficult to get any change in that particular area because it's always been a kind of throwaway issue. There's always tax issues are more important, or job development, and the environment, and this and that. And marijuana was just something that just never came on the radar screen. Well, it is now. Okay, and as squeamish as they may be, they're going to have to deal with it. And I mean, our goal is to just keep the law the way it is. I think it's very, very well written. It's not confusing. as some people claim, and it's given us the best of all worlds. And I think we'd like to see a situation where each community, the other part of the logic why we wrote the law the way we didn't mention dispensaries. Number one, because of possible political ramifications from shooting and those people and comparing us to California. But at the same time, we wanted to let each community determine how they wanted to deal with the issue. I mean, certain communities are very conservative. It's not a put down. They just don't feel comfortable. They don't want it there. So they don't have to have a dispensary, okay? They have to allow patients. They have to allow caregivers. But, you know, they don't have to have dispensaries, and that's fine. And there you got other communities like Ann Arbor, Genesee County is another area, and this, your prosecutor, David Layton, wonderful man. Excellent person, and the community supported him very, very big in this last election, and sadly he did not get elected, but he's excellent.
What they say, they issue propaganda statements. They say that patients are criminals. They say that patients are hiding behind the law. They say that patients have done this and patients have done that, but that's not the truth. The truth is patients are sick people. What they want is to be left alone. What they want is peaceful enjoyment of their rights, just like the people of the state of Michigan voted for. 63%, that's a huge margin. That is a mandate, because the people of Michigan understand that sick people, their primary concern has to be getting better, not fighting grand legal battles, not protesting, not worrying about somebody slandering or libeling them, but just getting better. And that's the real focus of this law, is people, not politicians. And I think politicians are trying to make themselves the focus of the law, to distract the public from the real problems the state of Michigan has. The economy, education, children, there are criminals. There are all sorts of problems that Michigan has. The one problem Michigan doesn't have is a problem with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act.
I think that the local option is ultimately going to be the best way to go to recognize these, commercial entities that are helping patients get their medicine. The municipality can choose to embrace or not embrace this stuff if they believe it'll help out, their town, and they feel comfortable bringing it in and that type of thing. That's fine. But the one thing that has to be certain is that nobody gets their rights removed from participating in this program in their own home. That is happening in some municipalities around the state, and that's wrong. That's kind of superseding the powers of that municipality. And I believe that most municipalities will ultimately think that it's a good idea to bring in these commercial enterprises, because they've proven to work out okay already. There's lots of vacant buildings, there's jobs needed, and there's people. This is all based upon getting the medicine to the patient. And just as an incidental, other positive things can happen. I mean, this is a win-win situation. The fact that there's so much aggressively people in opposition is a little confusing, except for when you realize that like anything else, money is at the end of that particular motivation.
Many interpretations would erase a lot of the Compassion Club activities that are out there too. Therefore, you would require your patients to go back to the black market to seek methods of obtaining their medication that may be through illicit or questionable means, which may put the patients at risk and certainly doesn't improve the state's economic status or any local community's economic status by promoting businesses with them.
Every time I call our representatives, and I get to be, I get to be friendly with some of the staff members, and some of the staff members are definitely in support of ending cannabis prohibition. But when I talk to them, and I get and I befriend them, and they learn to trust me a little bit, they share things with me like, well, they really need, like Representative France or Congressman Huizinga or Congressman Levin or Stabenow. They really need to hear from the constituents about how they feel about cannabis prohibition. What they're not doing is they're not hearing from the constituents. They're just hearing from a few of you people like Reverend Thompson, like you.
If there's one thing that I could say to you, it is that this law will only change when Congress is willing to change it. And what you need to do is contact your federal elected official, Senator Levin, Senator Stabenow, and the 15 U.S. congressional representatives in Michigan, from Michigan, in Washington, D.C. need to hear the pressure of the citizens so that they understand our concerns, and they will vote to support industrial hemp, the state's rights to Medical Marijuana Act, and eventually decriminalization if they hear from enough people and understand that it is the right thing to do. They need the political cover, and we need to push them to do it. Please contact your congressperson today. Let's end prohibition now.
Please, just writing letters, talking, and getting friends of yours. Just spread this thing out over the general population. And there's a lot of folks that don't use medical marijuana, but they do believe that the will of the voters should be honored, and that that marijuana is a legitimate medicine. Those folks, that's another one situation. If they're motivated to help out, some of them are very persuadable, but it has to be grassroots.
How can we get our message out correctly to the public? And this is a huge problem. We are up against a well-oiled propaganda machine. They can call a press conference, the government can call a press conference any day of the week, 7 days a week, and they're going to have 30 people there recording every single word they say and reporting it to the public like it's the Word of God. This is our problem. We can call a press conference and we're not going to get the same results. So it's very important, if you're a patient, to record your testimonial, to go and tell people about what this medicine has done for you. That's the way we get our message out. Let's take the last presidential election. It was won on a grassroots effort. People talking to people, people using the internet. If they won't give us access to traditional media, then we will use our media, and that is the internet. But we will get our word out to the public.
I would encourage everyone to think about the fact that if you do not protect and defend your God-given and legal liberty, you're going to lose it. You will lose it. The individuals that are interested or are willing to trade their freedom for security, you have neither. Okay? Think about that. This is very, very important. And to let these people, this tiny minority, destroy a law that was put into place by the people to give more freedom, not less, to just lay back and let that go down the toilet, is very, very dangerous, and it does not bode well for those of us who are alive and those of us who are going to be taking our place down the road.
I wished you would know what it was like to wake up and not be able to see and not be able to walk. I wish you know what it was like to come off pain pills. I wished you would know what the pharmaceutical companies have pushed through my body that have torn it up. I wished you knew what that was like to go through.
They should walk in my shoes, see where I'm at, what's going on. Other people that are ill, and this is working and helping. It's just medicine. It's just medicine.
I hope you have learned something new about medical marijuana in Michigan. We encourage your support. Please look for more information at the websites listed below. Thank you.